Welcome, everyone. This is Jordan Freed with MAPS Coaching, and today I'm going to share the stage with one of my favorite people, Mr. Craig Goodliffe, somebody who changed my life, taught me how to leverage. And he's got a little company that I'm a big fan of. It's not really a little company anymore. It's a big company called Cyberbacker. Is that your Cyberbacker mask,
It
Craig?
is. It is. We got these for 31 cents out of
Oh,
China. And
it
if
even has.
anyone wants one, send me an email. We got like 1,000 of them.
Nice. I love that. I love that. So we're going to talk about virtual leverage, Craig, which is a very popular topic, I think, especially with COVID hitting and our world's changing. So I'd love to start with, what was the reason that you decided to go so deep into virtual leverage? Why did you go so deep into this?
Um, I'd love to give you some big thought out. I sat down, I had a lot of intentionality. It did not work like that. Coach, both you and I have a lot of respect for. Jeannie went ahead and we were having a conversation. She says, I got to ask you, you and I were working with just as many coaching clients. You also have a real estate business and you do group coaching. And she says, I'm working for when I wake up in the morning. So I go to bed at night, 7 days a week. What are you doing that I'm not? And I just said, I've got an extra piece of talent in my life. And so we had that conversation, and I ended up helping Jeannie get someone, which led to another coach entering my world and saying, I need help. And so I says, okay, I'll help you too. And I was planning on it only going that far. And it just kind of flipped into conversation with previous leadership in MAPS, to how big can we make this? How do we help the coaches? And then it just kind of got big and out of control and fun.
And today, Cyberbacker serves how many people, Craig, roughly?
We're 1,100, and we were on Friday, we were 947. We've got close to 100 right now in the pairing process. And we just opened up for phase 1 of franchising. So we're headed into other industries right now. So that's kind of what we have. Our total count on Cyberbackers actually inside our organization through training and everything else is 1,171. Last year, we profit shared $226,644.05. So,
And you started this, what, 3 years ago, 4 years ago?
Yeah, we're just headed into year 3.
Yeah.
Like we're 3 months into year 3. So we're still making your regular 3-year-old mistakes, trying not to spill food all over ourselves, learning how to read. It's fun.
Yeah, I got it. So we've got all kinds of experience levels on this call, right? Anyone from a mega agent running a gigantic team to an individual agent that's maybe just starting out. If we go to the process of using a VA, a virtual person, what are some of the biggest mistakes or misunderstandings that you've seen people make?
The biggest challenge people have in general is just thinking that people are that much different because they were born somewhere else in the world. And also just thinking that's one mistake. The other is just that it's the regular hiring process doesn't apply. And when it doesn't work, and I've seen it not work more than it does work, it's because they didn't CV the right person. And I mean, there's no licensing here. People just show up and they're like, I'm a VA. And they do this globally, and you don't know who you're getting into business with.
Okay, got it. And so when you think about like the early days of using a virtual assistant, right? What were some of the hard things that you figured out, because they're in different time zones, or maybe there's a language barrier? Like if I'm at the beginning of this and I'm going to start using a virtual assistant, how would you coach me through that so that I am prepared to do the best I can from the beginning? So I'm career visioning, right? That's what CV is. But what are some of the other tips, tricks, things that you would have me do to really get that relationship off on the right foot?
So after you got through the CV process and everything, crystal clear expectations. And I know for some people it's 30, 60, 90. For some people it's all day, every day. It's whatever it is for you. And what are your non-negotiable KPIs? Because some KPIs, like it would be nice if, and you're exceptional when this happens. And sometimes they'll have someone that's great, that it's just taking that learning curve's pretty steep. and they just don't have the patience to stick it out. And on the other side, there's people that they have too much patience. And I see them hire someone like, well, they still haven't done the job I've hired them for, but they've, figured out 10 other things, which is great. That's like, the airplane, it was on time, great in-flight movie, but it crashed on landing. Didn't do you any good.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Mm.
So the thing I'm hearing from you, Craig, is that in your mind, it sounds like people make too big of a deal of them being virtual, being from another country, whatever, that it's just like any other hire, that if you're going to utilize this in your business, right, it's crystal clear expectations, meaning, as one of our favorite coaches, Craig Zuber, says, are they clear on how to win with you and in the role?
That's
That's
it.
after you've selected the right person, you've got to make sure that they can answer that question. Is
Mhm.
that right?
That's it. That's it. And Jordan, to be fair, I mean, I'll say that people kind of have Cyberbacker confused of we're a VA company. We're not. We're a hiring company. I mean, if you look at most of the other ones, and I've looked because I understand it. The criteria to get hired is pass this disc test and attend all these classes, and that's who they hire. Um, yeah, we hire out of the Philippines, and we've hired out of a few other countries where we can legally, we've got an entity set up so we can enforce a contract, because you've got to have that when you're going to go ahead and work with this. But we've mastered the hiring process more than anything else. That's what it is. And we have a pretty stellar training process that involves coaching, keeping people engaged, helping them be better. And then we got an awesome profit share plan that has retirement in it. And that, just the fact that we happen to be, hiring out of the Philippines makes us a lot like a lot of these VA companies, but not, I don't know of any of the other ones. There's one other company virtually that's franchised. Most of them don't do a lot with assessments. And I mean, we'll have maybe, like last week, we had 2,600 applicants. We didn't hire 200 of them.
Okay. Okay. So then, Craig, went to the point that you made earlier, right? Like crystal clear expectations, and what have been some of the pitfalls that you've seen where it hasn't worked out? Like, let's just say that they do have clear expectations. Maybe they have um, selected the right person, and it still doesn't work out. What's typically the reasoning for that?
Yeah, and I see some of that. Some people, they have a hard time with this hiring virtually concept and how to make it work and what it takes, because it's two different parts. Sometimes they're not the right hire, and sometimes you're not the right hire. And sometimes they'll go ahead and say, well, they're going to report to my assistant. Well, your assistant might not think that way, and virtually. So, but when it does, then you can empower the person. That's a big one. Some people, they do not feel empowered. They do not make decisions, and they do not perform on the job because there's no sense of ownership. And when you truly put it out there, just like you would for another high level hire, it's amazing what people can do.
Mm. Yeah, and where I see, and I've had a virtual or a cyberbacker now for 4 years, and anytime that something isn't working out the way that it's supposed to, it's because of the way I am communicating it. That if you set up the communication channels, like the my cyberbacker now, Darren, it's funny when people say, I don't like to manage people. It's like, great, then hire people that you don't have to manage, right? Because I don't need her to punch a clock. I need her to do a very specific job. She does the job, and that's it. And typically, where I find any failure in us executing something, it's because I haven't really taken the time to communicate it to her, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's not very different than having somebody face to face.
Mm-mm.
It's expectations and communication, right?
That's
Okay.
it.
So Craig, I'm trying to think of how I want to phrase this question without it coming across all clunky, but I know you're like Batman, right? Like you've even got the car, and I think you've got the suit, the
Yeah, yeah,
Batman suit.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I got an Iron Man helmet.
I know, I know. And if you ever want somebody, like if you're introverted like me and you need somebody to pull you out of your shell, go to New York with Craig because he'll have
Yeah,
you like taking pictures with literally
cops.
with policemen. And yeah,
Yeah,
it's very uncomfortable.
it's fun.
Um, but how does somebody, where are the areas that you see agents not using leverage enough that they could be with a virtual? Because you've done this across the board. And I want to hear some of like the tips, the tricks, like the things that you leverage that most people wouldn't even, I would never thought of leveraging
I don't even want to confess some of this stuff because of my
that.
deep dark secrets. People are like, "What do you really do?" Uh, Here's the extreme. If you look at Cyberbacker as a whole, that is my leverage. Um, there's no possible way I could, me personally, getting out of bed in the morning, go out there and hire 1,000 people because I'm going to need 100,000 applicants just to get there. And there's no possible way I can train all those people. And the accounting nightmare that comes along with it, breaking it down to the profit share and everything else. I mean, that company, that's 100% Filipino company. And I just hired, I mean, I'm going to tell you, the smartest things I did was number one, I was in the um, presence of talent and I knew it when I first started the company. And I met someone great. Her name's Sheila. She is the president of Cyberbacker. And I gave her the title. She has, like, she is in the Philippines on all of our entities over there, president on the entities, because you have to have that. If not, you cannot legally enforce your contracts. But I mean, everything from our legal presence over in the Philippines to we have an office over in the Philippines to everything, it's done by them. And when you look at just pretty much everything you could imagine, it's done by them. If you call me right now, a cyberbacker is going to answer my phone. And if you say book me a dinner reservation, that they would enjoy doing that for you. And if one of our clients calls in and they're like, you know what, my water heater's leaking. I need a new water heater. I need a plumber. They're going to find someone. It doesn't matter 24/7. They're going to get that taken care of for you. And it's
So
because
right,
ultimately, mm-hmm,
that's the stuff I want you to get into, right? Like
yeah,
put yourself in the mind of an agent, right? I run a real estate company, and where am I not leveraging using a cyberbacker or virtual? Where do you see it underutilized, Craig?
yep. So where I spend a lot of time mentally is in the consumer experience, both for cyberback or real estate, everything else, and what would I want? And if I've ever encountered a problem myself, like literally my air conditioning went out and I don't want to go search through Yelp and I don't want to go Google. I just want to pick up my phone and call someone and I'm going to forget who's in my database that's going to work on Central Air. But if I call someone, they're going to handle it for me. And that's what I want. So I started there. I look at, I go online and I see just the most amazing videos. You guys spending a lot of time on TikTok? No? Okay. So I can't create anything like that. And I'm smart enough to know I can create someone who can do that and they'll do it so I look good. Don't look at my TikTok. They didn't. You can tell when it's self-managed, it doesn't look awesome. But a lot of our videos and stuff like that, including our YouTube, it's done through that. Like if you want to go ahead and really dominate an area, and you want to be a YouTuber, like where YouTube actually pays you because of your content, I hired someone. They did that for me. I get paid to do YouTube, so I do a little bit of my own stunts, and you can do it just based on real estate. Have enough content with enough hours, it's an additional form of revenue. Everything from ad posting, whether it's a classified real estate ad, you've got a home for sale, to a I want to buy your home ad, to I'm going to send handwritten notes virtually. Um, I don't like admitting this one. So, guys, we'll keep this just top secret right here. But I'm not a Facebook fan. And if you saw my activity on Facebook, you wouldn't believe me, which is why I have a awesome strategy with a computer right here and people I can turn on and off. So when I'm coaching, they can go ahead and hear some of the conversations I'll be a part of, some of the words that come out of my mouth, and make sure it makes it onto Facebook.
So you've leveraged your social media largely through
Yeah.
the team,
Oh
right?
yeah.
So you have
Yeah.
somebody that is in charge of that.
Yep.
One of my
To
favorite ones, Craig, that you guys, I can't remember the name of the cyberbacker, but you do this for one of my clients, is they actually prepare his lead generation lists.
mhm.
And in some cases, they'll even listen while he's making those calls and make the notes for him, put the next call dates and reminders and all that crap that agents are really bad at and don't like doing. There's really no limit to what they can do as long as you can communicate it to them,
Yeah.
right?
Well, that was my first one. When I first went ahead and said, I need someone for me. And that's what they did, because I was great at making phone calls. I just had a hard time remembering to call someone back. And I would come in and constantly go, who am I calling today? But when I had my own personal babysitter, and all they did was go ahead and say, okay, you put on the headset, I'm dialing the call. And they were dialing for me. Well, lead generation got done. And for people, just, it doesn't matter where at, whether in Cyberbacker or in the real estate side or anything, but for anyone that has that job of lead generation, lead follow-up, you got a Cyberbacker on there with them saying, okay, make the call, and real-time feedback on, okay, what could you have done different, when they know they could have had it and they didn't.
Right. Right. And I have teams now, and I want everybody to hear this is not some plug for Cyberbacker that Craig didn't hit me up and say, hey man, can we use this to that I actually reached out to him. But I have entire teams. Like I've got a guy in San Antonio that this year will break 500 units, and their entire transaction coordination and listing management team, they have a director of operations that's local, but everybody else is a Cyberbacker. They do all of it, right? So it's whatever you, okay, so let's go back to consumer experience, because I think that's a big one,
Oh yeah.
right? So best practices for using a virtual assistant, virtual leverage to create consumer experience, Craig. What do you think that those are? Or where are you using that?
Well, so take the virtual part of it and just focus on leverage, and then go back and see if you can do it virtual after. So when you start thinking about that, like some things, yeah, I've got a guy in my office, my limo driver, and I actually mean limo driver. We bought a limo, equipment purchases, 100% tax deductible. So we've got a limo driver who he's in the office, but that was consumer experience. Because if I were buying a home and we're saying, how can I make that the absolute best possible experience? That's it. And so a limousine. And then how else can I make it the best possible experience? Well, updates the transaction, little handwritten notes for different mile points. You can order cool masks, stuff like that. But start with, don't think virtual yet. Think a consumer experience. How do I deliver something that is just knock your socks off amazing,
Mm.
to where you would refer business to you because it's that good?
Yeah, I love that. I love that. So, Craig, I think that I want to shift gears here and talk a little bit about the philosophy you have behind this, because I remember there was a time when you were teaching this as a group course, and
Yeah.
there were some people that were taking what you were teaching and using virtual leverage, and then they weren't paying people.
Mm-hmm.
And you got really upset about that. So I'd love for
Yeah.
you to share a little bit about your philosophy around people, why you, the the kind of why behind Cyberbacker, that the mission of it that you've shared before.
Well, so going back, Jordan, because you shared something back forever ago that I wrote down when you talked about what's your survival number, your lifestyle number, and your legacy number for income, right? And so I identified, for me personally, to live, I'm a $72,000 a year. That's what I need to survive. And um, beyond that, it's like, what do you do with it? And so I kind of had that kicking around forever. And then I started teaching people all over to hire virtually. And so sometimes they just went ahead, they got a few cool tips and off on your way, and they did a great job. Good for them. But I had a few people. I had a single mom once that I can remember. This lady, she says, do you know this agent? And I knew the agent. And she says, because they haven't paid me. And I called up that agent, just said, hey, is that true? And like, well, but they didn't deliver because I'm just paying them on recruits, like people that they actually recruit to their real estate team. And I went, hold on for a second. Who's doing the presentation? I am. I says, okay, but they're making calls. They're getting people in your office. Like they're doing that portion. Yeah. Okay. So it sounds like you're not paying them for work they're doing. Well, but they never came to my team. Well, if you do a lousy presentation, they can't get into your team. So, like, full disclosure, I just paid the person out of my own pocket. And I said, don't go work for them, because that's a messed up way to do things. And I just said, I'm kind of done. And I kind of was. And then it was kind of about the same time when I had people asking for help. And I kind of said, well, what the heck do you do now? And then to my own little behind the scenes story, I had problems with some of my people, and we didn't have the assessments we we have now back then. Like right now, one of them is Burke that wrote the KPA helped us develop an assessment. One of the things on there is the integrity like scale, where we can see the probability rate that someone's going to lie to us. And so that was a cool thing for career visioning, but got myself in a little bit of a pickle with someone who used to work for me. And legally, if you do not have an entity over there in the Philippines, I mean, they can go ahead and just do whatever they want. You can't enforce a contract. So that was kind of my, I think I'm done here phase to, okay, there's a need for this and there's a lot of good when it's done right.
Mhm.
So I kind of made the one of the first transitions, which I'll just do this for some MAPS coaches. Well, some MAPS coaches said, well, I'm going to have them do this for my coaching business and this for my business. So I said, okay, let's make it a little bit bigger. And then I had in 2019, I got an email from PayPal that they thought I was laundering money. So they said we're keeping $135,000 of your money, which we had just collected from our clients. We hadn't paid our people yet. We're keeping $135,000 for 180 days, and we're choosing not to do business with you. So here we are. We can't bill clients, and we can't go ahead and pay our people. So I had to take pretty much everything I had and say, okay, we're going to do payroll, and it's just going to get done because I'm not going to be that guy. So I successfully did payroll for 7 days, and then our accounts receivable, and we sold a lot of contracts, went ahead, made up the difference. We didn't pay anybody late. We still haven't paid anybody late, but going there, it kind of awakened me to other things in the world because I was hitting my survival number, but that legacy number kept haunting me. And so I'm there in the Philippines. I can remember sitting in the backseat of a car, and there's the street children, which they have a significant amount of children that live on the streets, and they're selling these little white flowers. And I always feel bad because this is a kid with no home. They're selling these little white flowers, and there's more kids than you could possibly help. I mean, I couldn't help them in my lifetime, but I know you can't give what you don't have. And I figured if I could structure something to help these kids go ahead and get taken care of, I think we're going to be okay. And I know a lot of the people that I worked with, they were taking care of their kids, their parents, their cousins, their aunts, their uncles, their nieces, nephews. I mean, they're taking care of someone and it's just colossal. And I'm thinking, who's going to take care of them? So profit share came back, and I was looking at Keller Williams profit share, and I went back into studying, had Gary do it. And I picked up Trammell Crow Master Builder because Gary said, that's what he did. And we set a goal last year to get our money back from PayPal, which we did, and a profit share of 50 grand. We profit share 226,000. And now the goal is to profit share 5 million to 15,000 cyberbackers. And that'll make the average 333, which is not an awesome income. But if you need a place to live and you need to feed yourself, that does it. So that kind of became the target that we're shooting for. But once I knew exactly what I needed to make, just take care of me, happy with it, I'm comfortable with it, and I don't have that expensive of taste, then it was, what do you want to leave behind? What do you want to give? And it's kind of an interesting thing because once I went ahead and I had that own clarity in my own mind that if I could go ahead and just fix this poverty problem over there, for me in my life, that's good enough. That's an accomplishment. And so that's just kind of the way that it started dictating my thoughts and my emotions and my thinking on how do you do that.
So there's something the reason I had him talk about this is because we spend far too much time as an industry talking about the how-tos versus the intention behind things. And if you listen to the intention that he just shared with you, number one, he knew his survival number. And, we coach around this. Your survival number is the amount of money you need in a year and broken down into monthly, every month to survive. Lifestyle is this is how much money I need to live the life that I ultimately want to, going to Disney World, traveling the way that you want. And then legacy is what do I want to leave behind? What do I want to give? And that's really when you make the shift. And he said it, he didn't use these words, but he said it. is he went from success to significance. And the point that there's 2 points I want you to hear. Well, 3. Motive matters. And the reason he started this company is there were people taking advantage of them, and now he has a platform that people can plug into and fund their lives, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is proximity is power. If he hadn't gone to the Philippines and seen these kids experience them with the little white flower, the heartstrings wouldn't have gotten pulled enough for this to work. So wherever it is that you're getting pulled, you've got to get into proximity to it in order for you to follow through on it, right? And then lastly, what I want you to hear is that he's prudent enough with his money that when, pardon my French, some shit hit the fan, he had the money to make payroll, that he wasn't subsidizing his lifestyle through the business. So when he had to pull the trigger and take care of his people, he was able to. And I just think that that's so powerful because we spend, again, way too much time on how people do things instead of why they do them. Right?
That's it. Well, once you know the why, the how's easy. And the how's impossible until you know the why.
Say that again, Craig.
Once you know the why, the how is easy. And until you know the why, the how's impossible.
Yep. You'll never know what to do until you know what you want.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, and it's what are you willing to bet your life on? Because if I'm just going to go ahead and go to work and make some money, I don't need a lot to live. And I know I can go ahead and make far more what I, need to survive, but I don't have a reason to make it. And what you're doing with your time, because that's your life, it's what are you betting your life on? And while that sounds like a very extreme statement, that's a very real statement, because at some point you might be forgotten. And what do you want to be known for?
Yep. And there's a lot of people that ask those questions, but they don't live it. And I know you personally, I've known you professionally, and you are one of the few who truly walks their talk. And so I think, what I crush is 30 minutes. So let's wrap this up, Craig. Anything that I have not asked you that I should have, anything that you want to share in the last 2 minutes that we have before we jump off?
Begin with the end in mind, and don't be so married to it that you're not flexible. Because originally, my original intent was, well, I'm going to go ahead and just help a few people out. That's how this started. And then it kind of went ahead and it just escalated and got bigger and bigger and bigger to where franchising, the conversation came up because I was on the phone with Jay Papson, and he talked about if there were to be a fifth model, it would be expansion. And so I sat there and I says, well, how the heck do you expand this? And I put a franchise attorney on the phone. I talked to a few of them, and I figured out how. And so I says, okay, well, let's go do that. And how do you do it outside of real estate? Now it's happening all over outside of real estate. So it's fun. If anything, I enjoy work. I love what I do. I have fun. People miss that.
Yeah, I would agree. I think it's because they're working for money.
Yeah.
Yep. And so just to recap this, number one, don't think of them as a virtual assistant. Just think of them as leverage, right? And write the job description. I get this question a lot from coaches, like, what does your cyberbacker do day to day? And my answer is whatever I need her to do, right? Like, she can do anything that I can communicate to her, short of driving over and putting, like, obviously physically there's some things she can't do. So write the job description, clear expectations, career vision, right? And is there anything on that I mean, and then think through the consumer experience. What would get you to refer business to your own company, and then use a virtual assistant, virtual leverage to do that, to build that, because it's literally limitless in the approach, right? Anything that I've missed there, Craig?
That's really, it's just leverage. I mean, I've got no problem writing someone a check for $50,000 a year if they're going to make me $500,000 a year. If I write a check for $50,000 and they lose me 25, I overpaid for that leverage.
Great point. Great point. And if you want more information on Cyberbacker, where do we go?
Cyberbacker.com.
Perfect.
That's a fun one. And there's all sorts of other stuff out there. You put Cyberbacker into anything, you're going to see all sorts of mischief.
Awesome.
So,
well, Craig, thank you for investing your time in us today. I know we're all better for it. And I can't wait to see you in person again so you can make me uncomfortable like you always do.
I will lick your face.
You're such a weirdo. All right. Talk to you soon.
See ya.
Bye-bye. Hi there, and thank you for watching What I Crush. And if you're enjoying what we're putting down, go ahead and hit that like and subscribe. Don't forget the bell button. And check us out at whaticrush.com. We'll see you on our next episode.